Demai, Perek, Bet, Mishnah, Gimel. And we'll dedicate this learning, as we always do, to the memory of my father, Harav Simcha ben Yitzchak Kalman. And we'll just throw in for good measure. If you have any comments or questions, email me, rspolter@gmail.com. Okay, let's go back down. In the last Mishnah, we talked about how does a person become a ne'eman. Okay, and Am Haaretz is chashud al Demai. Ne'eman is a person who is shomer al ha Demai, that there's no Demai, that he's a person who's careful about it, meticulous about it. But now we're going to talk about the Chaver. So, Hamakabel alav liyot Chaver. Person wants to become a Chaver. So, what are the rules of becoming a Chaver? Says the Mishnah. Eino mocher la'am haaretz lach v'yavesh. Chaver has to do with Tuma and Tahara. The Chaverim were meticulous about making sure that they maintained all of their produce in their households al Taharat HaKodesh. Basically, the way all of us have to be in the Zman of the Beit HaMikdash, or we have to try to be, anybody who wants access to the Beit HaMikdash has to be Tahor, and his property has to be Tahor. Okay? If you want to have Truma, the Kohanim had to eat the Truma Beit Tahara as well. Okay? But the Chaver also, if you wanted to be a Chaver, you had to maintain the laws of, meticulously, the laws of Tuma and Tahara. Okay? So therefore, Eino mechel la'aretz lach v'yavesh. You don't sell to an Am Haaretz something that's lach. Lach is wet. V'yavesh. Yavesh means something that was wet. Okay? He says lach v'yavesh. The ein most tarud la'Am Haaretz. Shasor ligrom tuma l'chulin sheba Am Haaretz sheberetz Yisrael. Because the Chacham wanted us to maintain tahara of the tahara of produce in Eretz Yisrael. Okay? And also ve'eino lokeach mimenu lach. And you also don't buy from the Am Haaretz anything that was lach as well, anything that was wet. Because the rule is as follows. Once something is lach, once something is wet, according to halacha, it's called muchshar lekabel tuma. That means it can now become tamei. If a sheretz touched it, if a tamei may touched it, if a piece of produce became wet at any time after it was picked, it's then considered muchshar lekabel tuma, and therefore it can become tamei. If it never became wet after you picked it, then it's not muchshar lekabel tuma. Okay, that it can never become tamei. So therefore, you don't give something since the Am Haaretz, since I as a Chaver care that the Am Haaretz shouldn't make things tamei. If I give him something lach, okay, if I give him something wet, he's going to make it tamei, okay, and therefore, if it's dried out, even if it's dried out already, I'm pretty sure yavesh also means was wet and dried out because that's something that's muchshar lekabel tuma. Ve'eino meitareach etzel Am Haaretz. He can't be a guest at the Am Haaretz's house, even if the Am Haaretz says, no, I'll take off Ma'asrot, I'm going to do it okay. Sorry, because you're going to become Tamei. V'lo me'archo etzlo biksuto. And you can't have the Am Haaretz over to your house. Biksuto means in his ksut, in his clothing. Why? The reason is as follows. Why? V'lo me'archo diksut Am Haaretz. Read the Bartanura. Diksut Am Haaretz tme'ato chamura mitumat Am Haaretz atzmo. The Am Haaretz himself, you could say, you can come into my house, but don't touch anything, or don't touch me. But his clothing are worse. The chayshinan were afraid. Shema yashva alav ishto nida. Maybe his wife sat on her when she was a nida. Ubigdei Am Haaretz midras leprushim. And vis-a-vis prushim, chaverim, the clothes of the Am Haaretz were tamei midras, which means even if you didn't touch it, if you carried it, you would then become tamei. Therefore, lo me'archo ela eitzlo biksuto. Even if he's wearing if his jacket or his clothing or his shirt touches your furniture, touches anything, can make something tamei. Mimagak suto. We have to be careful. Essentially, what that means basically is if we look at the Mishnah, it says lo ma'archo it's lo biksuto. It's like, what are you supposed to do? Say, here, you can come in, but please take off your clothes. And as soon as he touches it, then it's going to become, maybe he was tamei and make the clothes tamei. What that means is the Chaver cannot host the Am Haaretz in his house. He can't be at the Am Haaretz's house, and he can't have the Am Haaretz at his house, which is a very fascinating thing because that indicates that leads to, there are social ramifications to these halachot. If a person wants to be a Chaver, that means an Am Haaretz can never walk into his house. You know, I work for, if people who know who I am, I work for an organization called Tzohar. I marry couples, secular couples, under the auspices of Tzohar. And one of the most important things that we do is that the Rabbi Mechatein, the rabbi who marries the couple, must meet with the couple, always preferably in his house. Because we want them to see our houses, we want them to see our children, we want to have that meeting around the dining room table. And the Mishnahs, the rules that are imposed here, it creates a strong distance between the Chaver, who was the most important, the most significant, one of the more significant religious personalities, and the Am Haaretz, who probably could stand to be influenced by the Chaver. Those are the general rules that everyone agrees on. Tuma and Tahara, and of course, Trumot, a very meticulous application of Hilchot Trumot. Okay? And Ma'asor. Rabbi Yehuda says, Af lo yigadel behema daka. He shouldn't raise behema daka, or small animals. There was a gzeira not to raise small animals because, the Gehati explains also, because also the Bartuner explains, Asur legadel behema daka be'eretz Yisrael, shelo yi'u b'sidot ha'chemim, because it was common for people to allow their animals to graze in other people's fields, and that was theft. V'lo yehi parutz b'nedarim, and he shouldn't be a person who makes all kinds of nedarim. He shouldn't be a person who swears all the time, not swears, curse words, but takes oaths. U'b'schok, and lightheadedness and lightheartedness. Schok kalut rosh. Okay, that he shouldn't be a joker. He should be serious. He's a chaver. He represents a certain idea. V'lo yehi metamei l'meitim. He shouldn't become tamei l'meitim. U'mishamesh bebeit hamidrash, and should also serve chachamim, mishamesh tamidi chachamim, in the Beit HaMidrash. So Rabbi Yehuda added all kinds of different personality traits. He shouldn't have small animals, and he shouldn't be a joker, and he shouldn't make oaths, and he shouldn't become tamei, and he should serve the Beit HaMidrash. Amru lo. So they said to him, Lo bo elu l'chal. Chachal said, no. Chachamim said, to be a chaver, it's hard enough to be very meticulous about tumot and tuma and tahara. It's challenging enough, and to worry about trumot and masot in a meticulous way. It's not, we're not going to super club the club and say that he also can't be a person who's joking, and he can't be tameh, and he has to be mishamesh. That's not the rules of being a chaver. I also want to note, hamekabel ha'ma'atzon liyot chaver. Remember, we spoke about this idea of, to be mekabel. The Bartuner explains, en kabbalat divrei chaverut bepachot mishlosha chaverim. You see, there's a pagination problem in this text. I apologize. There's a spacing problem. It's before 3 people, similar to what we suggested about becoming a ne'eman also, that there was a committee. And he says also, you want to be a chaver, there's a 30-day practice period in order to become a chaver. And then you come in front of the committee, and then they obviously, I guess, ask you questions and make sure you know what you're doing. And then if you pass muster, then they'll let you into the club. Okay, if you have any comments or questions, arsporter@gmail.com. Have a great day.